Now we're going to pass it over to Mandy, who will talk to us about designing public spaces for welcome. And Mandy, are you feeling ready?
I am. Yeah, can you see my screen? Just want to make sure we're all set up here. All good? Thumbs up?
Yeah,
okay.
Take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura, and thanks, Brands for Better, for having me today. My name is Mandy Yu. I'm a senior landscape architect with the park development team at the Vancouver Park Board. At Park Development, my job is to implement parks and public space in Vancouver, and I do have the privilege of working here on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples, and I'm very thankful for this opportunity. This year's theme of combating social isolation is really a fundamental part of what I aim to do as a landscape architect, and I'm really happy to be here to share some of our projects and how we've been addressing loneliness in Vancouver through parks and public space. In 2019, the Park Board released VanPlay, which is our city-wide recreation and parks services master plan, which is really the organization's decision-making guide. It outlines our priorities, tools, and policies that support how we can deliver services more equitably across Vancouver, how we can welcome everyone into our parks and recreation experiences that improve quality of life, and finally, how we can weave the city together through our parks, nature, recreation, and culture, integrating these experiences into your everyday life. So our goal is to maximize access to high quality parks and recreation spaces, and also to connect people with themselves, each other, and nature. If you haven't had a chance to look at VanPlay, I've included the website there. I really encourage you to have a look at those documents. They're extremely comprehensive and give you a lot to think about. So I think this is the fundamental question that we want to address today, and part of this Brands for Better hackathon is, how do we connect people to themselves and to others in nature through parks and public space? I wanted to talk about 3 guiding principles that help to foster social connection. And these principles are really the foundation of how landscape architects design public space, and wanted to talk about them as a way that you might incorporate these principles into your solution. And this is equity, creating a place of welcome, and also how to create a sense of place. The principle of equity really lies in identifying where the gaps are. Equity is actually a bold move in VanPlay, and it was important that we took an evidence-based approach when looking at where needs were in the city. So there were 3 equity analysis factors that we layered on top of each other through mapping to create an equity initiatives map zone. And this really was a way for us to help identify where the needs were in the city. So as you can see, park access gaps was looking at areas where people had low access to park space. And this was people who had less than no access to park space within a 10-minute walk from where they lived. Demand for low barrier recreation was areas that had high demand for our low barrier recreation services. And then third layer was tree canopy gaps. So looking at where places in the city had less robust tree canopy. So those places might have more hardscape. So laying that on, you can see the light pink is where 2 indicators are shown, where 3 indicators are stacked together is the dark pink. And this really reveals one way that we can use this as a tool to highlight where we can allocate our resources. And the goal here is that over time, by targeting investment, updating our data, provision of parks and recreation services will become more equitable across the city. This map is also available publicly on Van Maps. If you haven't been able to go onto Van Maps before, I encourage you to do so. You can use this as a tool to just see where you might center your solutions for social isolation for this brand battle. Equity is also about what's going on in your neighborhood, observing and responding to needs. So through the global pandemic, one thing we did as Park Board staff was actually go out into our neighborhoods where we lived, and our task was to just observe what was going on and to see how people were using our parks and public space. As you know, parks and public spaces were packed with people who were at capacity because you couldn't socialize indoors. So our outdoor spaces were really places where people gathered. And as you can see, people were being really creative using parking lots to host their exercise classes. And we were seeing how kids were just setting up places to skateboard. And so we tried to respond to this need by creating a pop-up plaza. So this space is down in the West End at Sunset Beach parking lot. So we ended up taking away space for cars and turning it into people spaces. So pretty quick and dirty, cheap and cheerful solution, laying down paint to provide like a bright and welcoming space. And then also, using our beach logs as a creative way to create seating. We brought in picnic tables, shade umbrellas so that people could gather, and then also brought in some food trucks so that people could go down there, grab a bite, use the space as they wanted to. And we purposely left this space unprogrammed so that we could observe to see what was going on. And the result of this will be integrated into into a future master plan, which we're currently working on for the West End waterfront. Another project which came out of the COVID pandemic was the Stanley Park temporary bike lane. This one you may have ridden yourself or heard about, but for a couple of months during the pandemic, we actually closed down Stanley Park to vehicle traffic and allowed cyclists the opportunity to take the roadway. And this was really in response to physical distancing, allowing people to take care of their mental and physical health by getting out there into the forest. We closed down the seawall itself and to cyclists and made that for pedestrians only, just to give people more room to recreate. But this wasn't the end of the conversation. We actually heard from a lot of people who had mobility needs that by doing this, we cut off their access to the park. And so it became an iterative process where we started to do a lot of more public engagement. So you may have participated in some of our surveys that we put out there. We did engagement in 2020, 2021, and we're continuing to engage the public through the Stanley Park Mobility Plan. So this is the current configuration of the temporary bike lane, and we're just continuing to listen and hopefully making changes that are positive. This project is Sakahinam Sitsawe. It's our newest downtown park located on Smythe and Richards. And I wanted to bring this park in as a way to discuss a place of welcome. Designing a place of welcome, it really is about designing for diversity through creating diverse environments for people of all ages and abilities. If you enter into this park, there's an opportunity for you to take part in really active recreation here. You can be in the splash pad with your child or on the playground, or you could just grab a coffee, go sit on one of the many benches that we have and just observe what's going on. We also wanted to create a space that was inclusive through varied programs and activities. During the summer, we set up a playground leaders program through a recreation department where we hired Indigenous youth to lead playground meets for children of all ages, and it was open to the public. And the last concept I wanted to talk about was the power of 10. And this is a placemaking concept which really is about having 10 things to do at a park, or 10 things that you could experience. So you might grab a coffee at Kafka's when you enter the park. You might be meeting a friend there. You could sit at the cafe, or you could wander into the park. You could be looking at the kids playing in the splash pad during the summertime. Sadly, it's turned off now, but or you could take your coffee and sit on the seat steps and just enjoy watching the kids jump around and play. You could also take a different journey onto the elevated walkway, which is the bridge that snakes through the park, and either have a conversation leaning over the railing, watching what's going on, or you could be resting or hanging out in one of our nets that is one of my favorite features of the park, where you might be watching a 4-year-old trying to navigate on top of it with their parents from below, or watching a bunch of teens just engage with each other. Or you might be leaning over watching what's going on in the playground, or even watching your own child jump on those trampolines or go down the slide. So I do look at Google reviews, which probably isn't a great idea sometimes, but I like to see what people are saying. So it's great to see someone's son made 10 new friends, and a big adult has tried out the trampolines and didn't break it. He's gone down the twisty slide, which is awesome. So it's good to know what's going on out there. And we hope, it's great to see people of all ages and abilities enjoying this space. The last principle I want to talk about is a sense of place and how we create that. Access to green and public space is a fundamental factor in mental and physical well-being, and striving off isolation through creating a sense of belonging is extremely important. At Rainbow Park, a third of the park is actually green space, but not typical lawn space, but we really wanted to increase biodiversity by putting a lot of native plants in and creating a lush green environment. Other contributing factors to creating a sense of place is comfort. Designing something of a physical scale that is comfortable for people to hang out on. The Net is a really cool place, probably one of my favorite spots in the park, because it forces people to face each other inward, and by that it creates conversation. You're probably close to someone's personal space, but then you're making eye contact, enjoying looking around and seeing how other people are interacting with this kind of different sort of play space. Safety is also extremely important. So the park is universally accessible. The bridge also provides opportunity to have eyes on the street, which is a planning term that really is just about making you feel safe by being seen and seeing others. And lastly, we try to incorporate place-based design that is rooted in history and to help people feel connected to the land and a sense of belonging. And so here on the sky frames at the park, we have an Indigenous public art program where we are highlighting Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh artists. So in summary, equity, creating a sense of place, creating a welcoming environment. So public spaces, what I do is set the stage. And the question here is, how are you going to take part? And this was super fun. Spider-Man rolled into the park one day and gave the kids a really amazing show. They were screaming and just totally just bombed by having Spider-Man jump around, walk around, and like basically climb around all the play spaces, which is awesome. So yeah, I hope this is inspiring for some of the ideas that you might be thinking about for this brand battle. And yeah, I just really hope that how we've been able to incorporate these principles will help you as well in your solution. So good luck.
Thank you so much, Mandy. Round of applause. Everyone is saying they're a huge fan of your park.